The latest autism research study found that 37% of children with autism lost their diagnosis. Wow, that's profound, right? Let's learn the science in the study. Hi, I'm Dr. Teresa Lyons. I teach parents the cutting-edge science of autism so that you can make the best decision for your child based on quality information. Losing the autism diagnosis is a controversial topic. Please note, I am not expressing any opinions here. I'm guiding you through the science so that you know what is possible for your child. This study has used a new phrase, and that's non-persistent autism. In the past, researchers used to call the no longer qualifying for an autism diagnosis, they used to call it optimal outcome. I'm not sure if non-persistent autism will replace optimal outcome in the scientific literature. I just want you to be aware that the scientific and medical field struggles with what to call this. This study was done in Massachusetts and it was published just in October 2023. This study involved 213 participants, so that's a pretty significant study size. All participants were diagnosed with autism between 12 months and 36 months. And the researchers studied the children at age 5 through 7. That's when they were able to see that 37% of those in the study lost their diagnosis and had non-persistent autism. Okay, at this point, you might be wondering, how? Let me get my slides so I can walk you through the research. If you found this video to be helpful, please hit the like button and also subscribe to my channel to get the cutting-edge scientific information about autism so that you can make the best decision for your child based on quality information.
We are going to dive deep into one research article that was published October 2023 about the persistence of autism. Some very interesting studies just to be aware of. And this is a quote from that research article. While older studies have reported that intervention was associated with robust developmental improvements, newer reports, including a Cochrane review, suggest that behavioral interventions for young children with autism do not consistently reduce autism severity. I think many parents know this, and that's their intuition, but it's important for you to see this direct quote from a research article. Prior studies have shown that rates of persistence of autism for children diagnosed at a young age range from 68% to 100%. Losing the autism diagnosis is not anything new. Let's look at the study design. This is a natural history cohort study, which means there was 213 participants from a large academic hospital system. The children were diagnosed when they were between the ages of 12 and 36 months, and when they were diagnosed, they were not part of any research study. Since they were part of a large academic hospital system, the researchers were able to tap into that database, construct a study, and then reach out to the parents and have a reassessment when the children were 5 to 7 years old. And this happened between 2018 and 2022. You can see it takes a long time to gather data like this. Can you imagine 4 years? 4 years it took just to collect the data. In this study, researchers found 37.1% did not continue to meet diagnostic criteria for an autism diagnosis. That means they lost their autism diagnosis. It was not persistent. Another word is also optimal outcome to describe this. How, right? Everyone's wondering how. Interventions used. Parents provided demographic data of themselves through a questionnaire completed for this study, and parents also reported specific type and hours per week of each intervention received from 1.5 years of age until research assessment at 6-month intervals. So that was a lot of recording. I'm sure those parents had to think back a lot of times, and this is what they recorded. ABA or RDI, ESDM, that's the Early Start Denver model, speech therapy, OT, occupational therapy, physical therapy, developmental specialist, floor time, play group, social communication, emotional regulation, transactional support. Those were what the parents reported back that they used. Here's a figure I pulled straight from the research article. It goes over the demographics, so you can look at that in a bit more detail if you want. They have the ages, they have the sex. So there was 177 boys and only 36 girls included in the study, so it is definitely skewed quite a bit. There's discussions on race, ethnicity, insurance type, and whether the child was born premature, maternal education, and also income. Let's get to the discussion. Here's a quote directly from the research article. Children with higher baseline adaptive functioning scores and girls were more likely to have non-persistent versus persistent autism. While all the children in this sample received interventions, and most received autism-specific interventions, intensity of interventions in the 18 months after autism diagnosis was not associated with autism persistence. That is extremely important to understand. When researchers were discussing another study that showed non-persistent autism, remember this is not the first study to show non-persistent autism, the researchers quoted in the article, "In that study, for every additional month between initial and follow-up evaluations, children showed a 1.3-fold increase in likelihood of losing the autism diagnosis." That means the more time there was between diagnosis and follow-up, the more likely it was that the child could lose their autism diagnosis. That goes exactly opposite from which a lot of people believe in the mainstream. The researchers state that thus the older age of our sample follow-up, as well as differences in demographics, could be associated with higher rates of non-persistent autism in our study. This is extremely important to understand. It is also uncertain how the development of these children will progress over time, since they're only 5 to 7 years of age at research assessment. So I know we want our children to be happy and healthy, but it's important to remember that they are children. They still have a lot of life to live, and it's great to be able to give them the most solid base possible. But remember, it doesn't guarantee really anything in life. And here's a very important discussion part of the article. The methods of this study did not allow us to determine whether children with non-persistent autism improved because of inherent differences in their developmental trajectories or because of interventions they received. I'm going to input here that the scientists are lacking a complete analysis in so many other areas of health and interventions. This is really just scratching the surface. It just proves again that it's possible, scientifically possible, to lose the autism diagnosis. Scientists are not 100% clear yet on how this is happening, and this research article really didn't delve deep into areas of health. They looked at behavioral interventions. This is a very important piece of the article to understand. However, statistical analysis revealed no association between the highest number of hours per week of interventions received in the first 18 months after autism diagnosis and autism persistence. Many times during this journey, parents, their intuition says, you know what, this behavioral aspect, it's not working. Either the child is crying all the time, or they don't want to go, or it just doesn't feel right. And it's so important for parents to see the scientific literature so that they can follow their intuition, follow their guts. Because out there in the mainstream, there's statements like, oh, a child must receive 40 hours of ABA per week, always, intensively, all the time. And that's not the case and that's not what was found here, specifically with kids who lose their autism diagnosis. Furthermore, children with non-persistent autism had gradually decreasing intensity of intervention over time in comparison with those with persistent autism. And here's the reference.